We are now recording and everyone from the lobby is in the meeting.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel for Wednesday the 3rd of July. My name's David Crofts and I'm the chair of the panel. I also have three other members of the panel present. Marcia Doney, who's an independent expert, Marjorie Ferguson, who's an independent expert, and Carolyn Hill, who's a community representative on the panel. Just before I commence, just a quick rundown on the role of the panel. The panel itself was established along with a range of panels in each Sydney Council by state mandate in 2018. The panels were established to provide an increased level of accountability and provide an independent oversight in the development assessment process. And we particularly deal with developments that are controversial or sensitive or involving a conflict of real or potential of interest with for council. So in relation to those referred matters, which are actually specified in our guidelines, we provide an open and independent forum for interested people and groups to hear and make submissions about development proposals that are referred to us. We consider and determine development applications, application modifications, and reviews of applications. And in addition to that, we provide recommendations to council on planning proposals and any other development matter that may be referred to us. The representatives of the panel are appointed by council. However, the independent members of council and myself have gone through I'll call it a selection process through the Department of Planning, who have vetted us in terms of issues like conflict of interest and probity, our expertise and experience and the like. There's a series of statutory rules that govern our operations through a code of conduct and operational procedures, and they're available on council's website or on the Department of Planning's website. There's also a series of ministerial directions that govern the way we operate. The way that development applications are processed when they're coming to the panel is that they're lodged as per normal by an applicant. They're then assessed by the council officers and then reported to the local planning panel. The planning panel received that report as well as copies of all the submissions and the supporting documentation. We then inspect the site either in person or electronically when we're able, and we make an independent determination of the application. It's important to note that we don't set policy, so we don't make the rules, but we work within the legal framework and policies and rules set by council, the state government and courts. So in terms of our meetings, I mentioned that we do an inspection of the sites. We do those as individuals and we do them from the public realm generally. We hold a public panel meeting, which is where we're at the moment, for interested people and groups to hear and make submissions about a development proposal. We then close the panel meeting to move into a closed session for the panel to deliberate and make a determination on the applications. And then a public announcement is made a few days later once council's dealt with a number of procedural matters. Just a couple of other things. That the public meeting is an opportunity to make oral submissions. It's not a place for debate or for to and fro discussion between the applicant and objectors. I need to stress that. I also would like anyone making a presentation to try and keep it down to 3 minutes, please. If you've made a submission, you don't need to read the submission out. We've already had the opportunity of reading it and thinking about what it has to say. But if you just focus on what you think are the critical points, that would be really helpful for us. This public meeting is video and audio recorded, and copies of that recording are available on council's website. So that's a quick rundown on the panel itself. I'll now commence the official part of the meeting with an acknowledgement of country As a sign of respect, the Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel acknowledges the traditional custodians of these lands upon which we gather and pays respect to elders past, present and emerging. I haven't received any apologies for the meeting, and panel members have all lodged declarations of interest, of which all but Caroline Hill have declared no conflict of interest, and Caroline Hill has declared that there may be, she may in fact know one of the applicants who shares almost the same name, but she's not sure about that. So there's no actual connection that we're aware about or she's aware about. She just notified that as a precaution. And given the nature of that precautionary notification, there appears to be no reason why she should be excluded by the item in question, which is actually item 4.3 on the agenda from memory. So I'd now, can I just also mention, can everyone who's not speaking turn their microphone off, please? Because otherwise we pick up background noise, like paper shuffling or people chatting in the background and so on, and it's a little bit disruptive. Thank you. I'd now like to move on to item 4.1, which is the first item on the agenda, which is the modification of development application 2023/0574 to the Circle Narrowena. Modification of a development consent whose number is 2021-0311, which was granted by the Land Environment Court for demolition works and construction of a boarding house. Now, for that matter, I don't have any speakers who are registered as objectors. I do, however, have the applicant as representatives available and they're registered. And I can see, who have I got? Yeah, I can see Michael Haynes online and Steve, I think it's Kulus, Steve online as well. Yes, I can see you there as well. So I'm not sure whether or not Michael or Steve, I'll go through Michael and you can coordinate the efforts at your end, whether you'd like to say something or whether or not you'd prefer just to deal with any questions that any questions that panel members may have.
Sure, thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, really, we're here this morning to mainly confirm that we've had the opportunity to review the assessment report and the conditions of consent. We're generally supportive of the recommendations that are made. There's only, and really we're here to welcome any conditions from the panel. There's only two conditions, in fact, that we'd just like to raise question relating to. And is this an appropriate time to do that?
Yes, you can, if you like.
Thank you. So there's two conditions relating to the requirement for a traffic management plan for the demolition stage of the development. We're of the view that that's a little bit onerous, given that it's a single residential dwelling that could be approved as a complying development. And if it was done so, it would have a set of standard conditions attached to it. It's condition 31A and 38A. And just by way of example, the condition would require the applicant to prepare an accredited plan, a plan by an accredited person, submit the plan for assessment with the fees to council, prepare a traffic control plan, which would be at time and cost, consultation with all developments within a 250-metre radius, 14 days notification, etc. So there's quite a number of requirements in those conditions that would trigger costs and time implications. And we think that just for a demolition of a dwelling house, they may be onerous. So we just submit those comments for the panel's consideration, but otherwise have no further comments and would welcome any questions that you may have.
Okay, Michael, I'll take that, what you're suggesting on notice, and when we're going through the determination, we'll certainly consider the appropriateness of that condition of consent. of proposed condition of consent. Panel members, do you have any queries or questions that you'd like to ask the applicant? No. Okay, well, I don't have any queries or questions, and neither do the other panel members. So can I thank you for appearing for the panel, making yourself available, and I'll now close item 4.1 and I'll move on to the next agenda item. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we're now moving to item 4.2, which is, just bear with me a second, which is DA 2024/0375 Carrington Parade Curl, which is the use of premises as a cafe. This is located the Curl Surf Lifesaving Club, if my memory serves me correctly. Yes, that's correct. South Curl Surf Lifesaving Club. I was incorrect. So we have no objectors who have registered to speak, but we do have some people on behalf of the applicant who are registered as Natalie Nolan. Yes, I can see you're online. And Peter Lothar, are you online?
Yes.
Yes, good. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. So, Natalie, I'll go through you to coordinate your end.
Mhm.
Is there anything you'd like to say, or are you happy just to take questions and queries from panel members?
Yeah, pretty much just happy to take questions. It's recommended for approval. We've read the report. We're happy with the report, conditions of consent. It's got a lot of support from I think 34 submissions from the local community in support of the proposal. So everyone's, in support. So really just here for questions for the panel, really.
Okay, thank you very much. Panel members, do you have any queries or questions in relation to this item? No.
Not from me.
No.
Not from me.
Okay, well, I don't either. So we have no queries or questions. So if you've got nothing else to say, I'll close this item. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And as I mentioned earlier, any of the items that are being determined today, council will give you official notification in a few days' time once following this meeting. So thank you again. So I'll now move on to the next item, which is item 4.3, DA 2022/1848, 173A Seathorpe Crescent, alterations and additions to a dwelling house. We have one objector who's registered to speak, Bill Tulloch. And we also have two people on behalf of the applicant who are available, Vaughan Milligan and Matthew Power. I'll just check that we're all there. Bill Tulloch, I can see you're there. Vaughan Milligan's there. And Matthew Power, I can see you're there as well. Terrific. There's no one else registered to speak on that one, Heidi?
That's correct, just the three registered speakers.
Great, thank you. As I mentioned earlier, Bill, in terms of your presentation, if you can keep it to 3 minutes maximum, that would be great. No need to reread your submission. Please just focus on the major points you'd like us to take on board, and that way your message comes through to us solid and clear. So in your hands now, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Yes, my name is Bill Tulloch. I come from an architectural background. I represent the neighbours immediately behind the subject site. The neighbours are at 173 Seathorpe Crescent. As you say, David, I've submitted a written submission to the panel 27th of June 24. So I'll just simply summarise those matters. I refer to the assessment report. My clients asked for the DA to be refused. However, if the panel consider consent, there is two conditions that I ask the panel to consider. It's condition A and condition B on my in my letter. Condition B this morning was confirmed by the case officer to be acceptable to council. So I do hope the panel will endorse that recommendation, late recommendation from the case officer in respect to the height of trees. There is the other condition really relates to a view loss issue, and I'm asking for a very minor adjustment to the built form to improve the view sharing outcomes. The view loss consideration by the case officer is at a moderate level, at that level, and I agree with that assessment by the case officer. I feel there is a minor adjustment that could be made to improve that situation. However, David, and panel, when I have a heritage item, I always stop and contend, are we doing something to a building which we perhaps shouldn't be doing? And to that extent, I contend that the existing building does meet the threshold for listing as a local heritage item. I believe that the dwelling has heritage merit. If you look at page 2, you will be able to see the room in all its glory back there of a house called Nelma, which was the possible abbreviation of the soprano singer Dame Nellie Melba, who obviously performed in this room. It was built over 100 years ago for a theatrical property manager called George Phillips and his wife. He was called Rock Phillips. We should have more rocks, I guess, in the world. And Rock basically was very influential in the whole theatrical scene within Sydney pre-First World War, before we had obviously talking pictures. There is that connection to Dame Nellie Melba, and obviously Rock Phillips knew her well, and perhaps that the name of the house, I think, most reflects her name. I want you to refer to the original Council's Heritage Officer statement on page 3, which basically confirmed my thoughts at the time, and I still feel that is the case. That is, the first floor extension over the main roof is considered to diminish the character of the original building, and it is irreversible, and it goes on. I won't repeat the whole paragraph there, but I ask you to look at it. My other concern here is relating to the complete removal of structures above the fragile roof. It appears in the sections that is going to be the case, and that 100-year-old metal panelled ceiling that you see there is highly chance of being destroyed. There is no heritage material supporting the removal of that, and although they say they're going to keep it, I can't see it will be retained by looking at the sections of what is
Bill,
being proposed.
Can I just mention you're over the 3 minutes, so if you can...
And that really completes it. The view loss from the moderate situation, I refer to a recent decision by Commissioner Gray on a Land Environment Court dismissal. And again, it's nothing particularly new on this one, panel, but it basically is a reminder to sort of state, as well as controls requiring the incorporation of design measure to facilitate view sharing, every effort should be made. And in that respect, panel, I do hope you will provide an additional condition A. That's it really. I refer to a section 4.6 issues regarding previous excavation under the existing house, which I think is incorrect. Other than that, David, that completes my presentation this morning.
Okay, thank you very much. Bill, can I just confirm we do have a copy of the submission with the photograph and so on. So we have had the opportunity to read that, and also we've also had access to the Heritage Report as well as the Heritage Officer's commentary. So we'll be certainly taking those into account. Panel members, do you have any queries or questions at this stage? No? Okay, what I might do now is pass over to Vaughan Milligan to our coordinator at your end, if that's possible, on behalf of the applicant. And so, Vaughan, would you or Matthew like to respond or make any commentary at this point?
Yeah, sure.
David, I think, Matthew's our project architect. He has some comments he'd like to go through first up.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking the time today. I'll be quick because I know I've got 3 minutes. I want to say thank you to Bill because he's obviously done a lot of my work for me, talking about the heritage. From day one, we've always respected that. And I think our first submission to council 3 years ago was about retaining that theatre. And that's why we have a building on top of that theatre to retain that theatre element. It's never been a heritage building and hasn't had a heritage anything to do with heritage stamped on it, but we've always wanted to retain that. Now, we started off with a scheme and we've worked very hard with council back and forth since COVID to try and get something that sort of works with the neighbours. And in a site like Seaforth Crescent, there's neighbours everywhere on every side, everyone's sort of building next to each other. So it's always going to be hard, but we've tried as much as we can to give as much back to council. And I think council staff have been perfectly happy with the form. And even when working with the Heritage Advisory in council, one of the requirements was to keep the pitch at a certain level, which restricted our roof height. But we sort of worked with that and diminished our roof to make it work for the heritage guys in council. So essentially, thank you, Bill. Yeah, we agree with you. That theatre needs to be kept, and that's why we've sort of made this time to try and keep as much of that as possible. Also, Bill referred to the excavation. We've had a survey, so the site is completely as documented on plans. And in regards to the detail section, as Bill will know, being an architect, you do all your workings out before you do your DA, and then when you go to your build, you actually then go into more details. So the idea is that that theatre and the height is kept because it was, the old, opera singers, place of which used to go and sing. So essentially, we've done everything we can to work with council. It's a very modest first floor. I disagree with Bill. I think it worked very well with the character of the building. We haven't put a modern, addition on top. We've tried to keep it very, and the actual roof, it's a bit higgledy-piggledy. It's been literally added on by years. The only thing is, so again, disagree with Bill on that. So I think, as a whole, we've done everything we can. I think it's a beautiful design. I think it gives the neighbour behind lots of view sharing. And even the photos that they looked at, they were down at the bottom from his house. He sees right over, it's great. So that's it from me. Vaughan, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Matt. And I guess for the panel's benefit, I don't propose to reiterate a lot of what Matt has said. Your site inspection, albeit maybe from the public road, probably will give you a sense of the topography of the land. We've got a number of reports, particularly there's a heritage archival report which might help assist the panel in understanding the building. It's a very modest single-storey building at the moment. Proposal is to add an even more modest first floor addition. So in the scale of development for this part of Seaforth, we believe it's a complementary addition. It compares very favourably with the neighbours, and I think that's borne out in the supporting report from the staff. We understand the conditions, and we've seen the supplementary memo that was provided to the panel this morning. We don't have any issue with the conditions that have been recommended by the staff in relation to the maximum height on the roof. I believe there was a further request for additional changes to our first floor level, but I think as a panel will see, the bedroom that's proposed at the first floor level is well within the roof form. I don't think, and Matt may need to comment further on this if the panel requires further clarification, the roof already has been lowered to the point where I don't believe we could comply with the Building Code of Australia required heights if we had to do further lowering. The ensuite at the rear is only 2 metre high ceiling height climbing up, so it's compliant with the height on average.
Yeah.
And as I said, we've worked very hard with the staff over the time. We've had 2 heritage consultants review independent reports of the building. Both have agreed with council's position, or council's agreed with our position. The building doesn't meet the threshold for heritage listing. That said, however, the owners have been insistent in their initial brief to Matt that the theatre room needs to be retained. That's provided a constraint on how we design and does have an impact on our height. The slope and also the retention of that existing form does limit further lowering of the overall height, and we hope the panel can recognise that in the sections and the detailed staff assessment. Otherwise, panel, we're both here for any further questions you may have, and we seek your support to the officer's recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much, Vaughan. can I just mention too, while we have inspected it from the public realm, we have had the benefit of photos that were taken by the staff on site. So we've got an appreciation of the building close up and also the surrounds, including the dwellings around. Panel members, do you have any questions or queries? No?
No.
No. Okay, well, that being the case, can I thank you all for appearing for the panel? And I'd now like to close item 4.3. That's the final public item of the public component of this meeting of the Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel. So I'd now like to close the meeting. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. Have a nice afternoon.
And panel members, can you just stay online for a few minutes, please?